Okay. Look, do we have it right way here? Okay, I'll make the video and do some work, try to keep up with it. First, my name is Mukasa. I gave the slave master his name back. Y'all know the names you got ain't your name. This name is the slave master name when you brought you off the slave ship. You know that. So, my name is Mukasa. I got it when I was in Uganda. I always start with Africa. In the world. Y'all know we Africans? You know you African? You know you African? I want to ask another question before I get started. Does Alabama State have a program where they recruit the most beautiful women in the world? How did y'all get it? Well, y'all told them, oh, you're beautiful. I thought you were just so small. A little of both. I'm very honored to be with y'all. First of all, I said that we're Africans. And that, you know what, I'll do it this way. I want everybody to tell me something about Africa, real quick. I'm going to point to you, you just said anything about Africa. Africa. African culture, yes. Africa. Africa. Beautiful. Africa. Africa. Say again? African key what? Africa. Say again? You gotta figure it out right there. Say again? Down there. Africa. 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 Say again? How we operate? Africa. Say again? What do you mean resource? I want everybody right quick. At one time, each one of y'all name a natural resource. No, y'all be big mouth when y'all get outside the show. Now, Africa has all the natural resources in the world. Richest nation in the world, right? With natural resources. This nation. Africa. Say again? Hard work. Africa. It's the motherland. It's your mother, yes. Africa. Origin of civilization. It's our origin, it's the origin of civilization. What civilization? What is civilization? What does that mean? Anybody say what civilization means? Say it again. Predate old nations, build great civilizations, build pyramids, build Ghana, Mali, Songhai, Zimbabwe. Anybody else know any other kingdom we built in Africa? Anybody name one? This is your history you're talking about now. Huh? Say it again? Nubia. Yeah. Africa.
It has a great impact on a lot of people.
Have a what?
A large impact on a lot of people.
I can't hear you.
A large impact on a lot of other cultures.
Of course, as a matter of fact, all cultures copied off of African culture. Like when y'all said Jesus, right? You know Jesus' real name? What was Jesus' name in Kemet? 5,000 years before they even start calling him Jesus or Horus, or even more than 5,000. What's his name, huh? No, it's over H. Haru. Y'all ever heard of Haru? Google Haru and African god Haru. You see, that was his name. Did you say it? You said it, right? What? Perfect in the world. All the civilizations in the world. You're right. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Say it again. Beautiful. You sound beautiful. Thank you. Africa. what makes a land rich? The natural resource, we already said, right? African queen. Hmm? Just in my face. You have it. Africa.
It's big.
Say again?
Big. Africa's very big.
12 million square miles of land. Africa.
It's a trading country.
It's what?
A trading country.
It's a what?
Trading country.
Trading. Well, we traded with the world, and we traveled the world, built pyramids, and did a lot. And then Africa was invaded, and all other countries, Europe and the Arabs and everybody, came and raped Africa. And it was the richest land in the world, the richest people in the world, and the most educated people in the world, very knowledgeable. But when they invade, they destroy us, and then come in and take everything and destroy our schools and institutions and kingdoms and all that. And when they destroy them, they leave us with nothing. And we went from being rich and having all the resources to all those resources disappearing and going to Europe and to the Arabs and leaving Africans poor. But before they invaded, we were in control of the richest land in the world. But when they invaded and killed us and murdered us, then they became rich. That's how the United States became rich. Everything they make a car with, all these lights and cell phones, everything. All the resources come from Africa. And they're yours. We just got to be like the Taliban and take them back, right? Y'all heard the Taliban? They talk to people, right? Y'all might be okay? You will. No problem. Did you? What did you say?
After the African state.
Richest land in the world. Africa, how you doing?
Africa has very, very different cultures and often has the richest man in the world.
Have what?
The richest man in the world.
The richest man.
Yeah, Messi.
Masa Musa. What's his name?
Yes.
Masa Musa. Y'all heard of Masa Musa? Masa Musa used to travel all over Africa. And everywhere he traveled, he'd leave people to turn it over, giving it to him. He didn't steal it. He's the richest man because he gave it away. All these people, they got millions and billions because they rip other people off. They're thieves and murderers, robbers, right? So here's your land, Africa.
Good food.
Best food in the world. And we eat with our hands. Chinese eat with wood. Europeans eat with iron. And us Africans, what we eat with? What your grandmama eat with? Africa.
Hot.
Hot. Yeah, nice climate. About average weather, about 78 degrees. And yeah, perfect climate. Very good. So I said that to say that we're Africans. And Africa is our land. Now, if we're Africans and Africa is our land, what happened? Africa was invaded. And when they invaded Africa, they took Africa from us. And then they put us on slave ships. They killed hundreds of millions of people in Africa. They put us on slave ships and made us work all over the world free. They created a system where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's what the system is at. Capitalism. Rich get richer, poor get poorer. Wherever capitalism is found, there's a have, a have-not, slave and slave master, oppressed and the oppressor. You understand? So we are all victims of the capitalist system. And that we continue to be in a system where they are like something that's blood. The more blood they get, the more they suffer. The more poor they make them, the more they steal. The richer they get, the more they want, and the more they continue, and the more they make the people poor and poor and poor. And they continue that until you fight back. So now they scourge you all over the world, made you work in the cotton fields and for nothing. But this system still exists all over the world. You got over 500 million people in the world, more than that, much more, that make less than $1 a day or $2 a day. Some make that much a week. And they work like dogs. Some just make barely enough to get a little food. And most people ain't never seen a clean drop of water. Even though they got taking water out of Africa and carrying it to Europe and bringing it to the United States and to the Arab countries and running pipes through Africa, getting resources, whatever. And so Africa is the richest land in the world. So they put you on slave ships, scattered you all over the world, made you work for nothing. And when you look around the world today, you find that every land, all lands are rich. Every land can sustain its people. Every land can give you food, clothing, and shelter. And you have some stuff to give your people education and develop medicine and doctors and whatever. But our land is being raped so much that the things that people need, you got to have, are the things that these greedy people charge you for. You need food. Now they got a price on food. Before, everybody could get fruits and veggies and have fish in our oceans and waters. But they go and rape the fish and bring it and carry it to Europe and other places, and they sell it. So many people are starving to death in the world. They got a price on food and they rape the land. How do you say? Medicine. Everybody needs some medicine at some point. Medicine should be free. We should make doctors out of all our young people. Instead of putting them in prisons and jails where some of your fathers, brothers, and friends are, we need to burn the jails down. Putting them in jails and prisons, why not put them in universities? You understand? Also, you need housing. Everybody should have a house, a nice house. Everybody should have daycare and nursery for children. Every baby should have a school. And this is the system that we need to build. Now let's go up again. In the 20s, somewhere around there, Marcus Garvey and W.B. Du Bois and those, they said we need to go back to Africa. A lot of people said it. Some of the church people, the AME churches and all kind of people. So we need to go back to Africa. They said Africa's our land, we need to take it back. But then they scattered us all over the world, we found ourselves in slavery. And then we had to fight. And we fought everywhere, but they robbed us of everything. When they sold us into slavery on the slave ship, named the first slave ship, the land here with us is called Jesus. Did y'all know that? Slave ship Jesus. That's what they named it. And then on the slave ship, it was torture. They built big buildings, big as this building. I was in the slave dungeon in Africa not long ago. And they got big buildings where they had you by the hundreds and just packed you in a room like this, put 1,000 and you're so tight you can't move. And then you just have a hole in the wall, just spray the food in there where you have to pick it up off the ground, where you buy movements and tea and all this kind of stuff. Well, you couldn't see, you just picked out there and looked for food. And you know, if you mix with your bowel movement, you probably eat that too. But these are the kind of horrible treatment they did. And if somebody speak out like Dr. White speak out, they would put them in a room with a lock and key, a big room, and they never come out again. They just lock the door and let them starve to death in that room. I went in there. So here, on the slave ship, on the plantations, they robbed you of your African rights and your human rights. Made you work from the daylight to night. And you work free. And you build a nation. You build the United States. Now again, they came in and killed the native people that was on this land, took it and named it after a man named America's Who. Yeah, named it after the people. And then called it America, gave everything in the world a new name. And all the great kingdoms and buildings and things of knowledge, they erased your names off of them and put their names on. That's why everything you look today, you think everything started in you. You think you did nothing. But you gave the world mathematics, science, chemistry, engineering, biochemistry, physics, art, music, astronomy. You had schools and doctors and medicine thousands of years before anyone else. You even gave the word of God. You taught the word of God, Almighty God over all the gods. Monotheism come from Africa, Egypt, Kemet. But let's look again. When all of us was in slavery, being killed, murdered, and raped, and when they came into Africa, one of the things they would do is do the same thing the United States is doing now. Kill the young men, or castrate them, or put them somewhere where they couldn't make babies. They would castrate the men and rape the women. That's why they put you in jail. Y'all young men are in jail now at the age 15 to 35 or 40. Those your baby making years. And they put you in jail where you can't make babies. That's genocide. So, when you being robbed of your humanity in every form and fashion, they made you shame of your hair, your nose, your lips, made you shame of Africa, made you think Africa was nothing. Nothing. They made you, took everything from you. The schools that they made you go to when they started letting you go to school, back in the day, they cut your tongue out if you spoke your language, or they'll cut your tongue out if you read, all right? Poke your eyes out. And those kinds of things. So we have suffered. And they divided us up into a whole lot of different people. Right? In Africa, it was one big solid rock of Africa, 12 million square miles of nations that we were building. When the Europeans came, or when the capitalists and the slave folks came, they cut Africa up into a bunch of pieces, and all the different Europeans took a piece and said they owned it, and all the Africans in there had to work and take all their resources and put it on boats and ships for them to take to Europe or bring to the United States. And when they did that, all these nations got rich and powerful. That's why they got so much more than what you got today, because they raped your mother lady. The native people just saying they have nothing. They killed them and put them on reservations. Now they live like animals. So during all that time, the Africans was trying to fight back. The first successful revolution was in Haiti. Yeah, how many people know about Haiti? How many know about the Haitian Revolution? How many know that Haitians were the first slave rebellions to win and beat the slave master, the French, down and win their freedom and became a free nation? Did y'all know that? That's why they make the Haitians for today. They hate them because they beat them in 1804. They won their freedom. And they stood free for over 115 years. And the United States and other European nations, they invaded Haiti over and over again until they beat them down and just kept fighting. And one settlement, one trade with them, knocked people from trading with them, and made them the poorest nation in the world. And I was recently in Haiti, and they all do just like I spoke at elementary school just like I'm speaking here, and the children never seen a pencil, never seen a piece of a book in the school. No pencil, no books, no lights, no cafeteria, no toilets. You have to go leave the room and go way out in the woods and use the bathroom. They got to use it. They no bathroom. Go out there, and there was no roads to the school. You know, all the bushes around, the children coming way through the bushes, walking to school and be so hungry for knowledge and information. But they do the best they can because they're very poor, because of the United States. And then Haiti had an earthquake a few years ago. Y'all remember the earthquake in Haiti? Hillary Clinton went down there and put together a foundation to help the Haitians. And they sent the money, over billions of dollars to Haiti to help the Haitians. in the world. And the men and about soldiers in when they had the earthquake to bring stabilization to the country, they say. And the soldiers that came down there, they just walked around and grabbed any woman, or any little child, and raped them. They even grabbed little boys and raped them. They're doing that right now today. And the people in the streets fighting and crying, saying, here we give it, demonstrate. Here we give us back our $2 billion. And they live under rocks now because they just had another earthquake. And all the houses, a lot of the houses fell down. All the buildings, a lot of them fell down. And thousands and tens of thousands of people are living in water, living under rocks, and have nowhere to sleep but under a rock. Men, women, children, families. The United States is making it worse, and they continue. They don't have no medicine. They don't have no doctors. They don't have no hospitals. They don't have schools, if you really want to call it that. They don't have nothing. But this is not just in Haiti. This is all over Africa. I travel Africa. And in Africa, of course you got people that live like you living right here, or even better. You got schools and universities. But then you go out into the small area out there where y'all families live now. United Alabama State, then you find people that don't have toilets, don't have clean water, but yet they come from the richest land in the world. They're being raped. They say, well, Africans are poor. We said, no, that's nonsense. Africa's not poor. It's not Africa that is poor, it's the Afrikaners. Because they have been raped for centuries and centuries and centuries and robbed by France, Britain, the United States, Israel, the Arab countries, and every country in the world have to come to Africa in order to build their kingdom, to build their nation. Yeah.
Can you start to talk a little bit about the civil rights movement?
No problem. We go to civil rights. Now, all Africa is poor. It's poor. The people are poor, but the land is rich. On slaves here, brought us here, scattered us out. Marcus Garvey said we need to go back to Africa. Build a movement to take us back to Africa. And then by the 1960s, Rosa Parks, in the 50s, Rosa Parks sit on a bus. At that time, if you understand the civil rights movement, we couldn't go in the front doors. One of the young men down in Tuskegee that worked with us, he went in the bathroom and said white only. And when he walked out, they shot him in the head with a shotgun. They were sending him to him. Let's go look at that. Now, all of that say yes to the white people. Couldn't live in certain neighborhoods like they do nowadays. Went to schools, and all the schools that we went to, the white people got their books. And after they teach them about 4 or 5 years, they come obsolete. They would send those books to us and give the white schools new books. You understand? And this is what we were under. So when Rosa Parks sit down on the bus, she was saying more than I just want to sit on the front of the bus, but we want justice and human rights for black people. So when Rosa Parks sit down, there was a meeting in Dr. King's church. E.J. Nixon called a meeting. Mr. Sayers, some of them. And when they got to the meeting, they said, Dr. King, we're going to make you our leader. And they called Dr. King in and made him a leader, a spokesman for the movement. And when Dr. King became a spokesman for the movement, all the people in my government supported him. They threw dynamite at him and all that kind of thing. But the people supported him, but he inspired black people all over the world. And they were watching him, looking at it. But at the same time, there were movements in Africa and South Central America doing the same thing. So Dr. King and Rosa Parks' inspiration, another young group was started called SNCC, S-E-N-C-C. And when the Syrian movement, they went downtown in Texas, we used to call it, and sit down where white people sit. We had, if white people had a nice place to sit, and they have a little bench in the back where we would sit. And they went and sit where the white people sit. And that started the movement. They put them in jail. And they thought that was going to stop them, But when they put them in jail, everybody got behind them, and then students all over the country started doing the same thing. Alabama, Mississippi, everybody started going to the white folks' stores, and the sit-in movement was kicked off. And earlier, during that time, you had black people getting on buses, and they would get on there with white people, and they would get on the bus and sit on the front and ride down through the South, and they would throw bombs on the bus and fire them, put them in jail, put them in prison. But that was the freedom ride. And the sit-in movement, people started sitting in. When we started doing the sit-in movement, they threw dynamite at us, bombed churches, killed little children, killed the children in Birmingham. College students in South Carolina went down to the white bowling alley. When they got back to the school, the police surrounded the school and started shooting down in the school and killed 4 children and wounded 6 children. So this kind of tension was going. They started throwing dynamite, put us in jail, but thousands of people went to jail. But from the sit-in movement, we began to, went to jail, we began to fight. In 1963 and 62, sit-in movement. In 64, during that time, somebody said, well, we are registered to vote because the same white police and mayor that beat us in 61 is beating us in 62. So let's start registering black people to vote. When we start trying to register black people to vote, they start burning down our churches. They start killing people. Like Charlie McParker went down and tried to register to vote. The county commissioner came out and shot him in the head with a shotgun right in front of the courthouse. Mr. Damon, he was the NAACP worker, and he tried to register people to vote. They came to his house one night and started shooting, and he shot back and put his family out the back door, and they threw bombs in the house and burned him up in his house. Meg Evans, y'all heard of Meg Evans? Well, Meg Evans was a civil rights worker in Mississippi, and he was going home one night after leaving the meeting, and he went home, and a guy named Guillaume Beck was standing behind the tree and shot him in the back, and the bullet went through his back and went through his heart and landed in the bullet landed in his refrigerator. But Meg Evans became a great hero. Women like Fannie Lou Hamer became a great hero for fighting, even though she was beaten and all that kind of stuff. Black people share property, working on farms, working all year, they pay at the end of the year. But after you work all year, the farm owner would say, you owe me. Even though you worked a year, you owe me. So you can't leave my land. You got to work another year until you pay me off. That would go on year in year. It's called sharecropping. But we began to fight. And then because we marched and demonstrated, they would put us in jail, and white people coming and shoot us and all kinds of things. But many areas like in Lowndes County, all down through Alabama, people lived in terror for speaking out, for trying to register to vote. Greene County, Utah, but they lived in terror. So we went into Lowndes County, Alabama, after they killed 2 or 3 people. I know they killed Uzo, killed Jonathan Daniels. And
those were white people that they were killing. They talk about how vicious they were to whites who were support the movement.
They called it nigger love. If you was a human and you didn't like, and you helped black people register to vote, or even associate with black people, they would call you nigger love. And they would kill you quickly. A whole lot of white people died in the movement because of white racist police or white racist white people didn't want white people to associate with black people. They wouldn't allow them to come to our school, and didn't allow us to go to theirs. The law says segregation. So those people that want to be human and deal with black people and fight against it, they would do it. And a whole lot of white people died in the movement, and a lot of white people in the movement kept the movement and took a stand against racism. So they would explain that Racism not only hurt black people, but it hurt white people. They couldn't associate with who they want to be associated with. They couldn't be human beings. And those who chose to be human beings, they would go after them, fight them, and kill them, and what have you. So we realized that once we were fighting, and in Lowndes County, we picked up guns. And we said when they come to, like when we tried to register people to vote, anybody that went down and tried to register to vote, they put them off the land. And we had to build 10 cities down there where people could stay in these tents. In Selma, when they tried to march, they ran horses over people. And then when the students at Alabama State marched and marched down the street, I was right in front of the march. Do you remember what street that was they beat us on?
Right there with Jackson and Adams.
Adams. Yeah, we were going down there and cheered and walked out the cafeteria here at Alabama State. I walked off the campus and we marched downtown and go down there and pick the governor for the injustice they were doing to black people in Alabama and denying us our rights. And they were in horses over and busted, knocked children, ribs out, teeth out, and did a lot of things. So they beat y'all just like they said they did John Lewis or the people themselves. Huh? Yeah. These are the Alabama State children. Probably some of your grandmamas or daddies and whatever. But they marched and they ran horses over us. And when they ran horses over us, they did nothing. So in Lowndes County, we picked a Green County, Utah. They put them off the land and other places, but they were very brutal to us. And when they put us off the land, and then they would come shoot in the tents, come shoot at us and be in our cars. And we got us some rifles, and when they come and shoot, instead of we used to be nonviolent, they do it. But when we got to Lowndes County, since they were known for killing people, like they did my old Johnson and others, then and Reed down in Selma and others, and they were as lynch people. They built monuments down in Lowndes County in different places where they lynched black people. Lynching black people was nothing. They would never find a black man on the side of the road all throughout the South with his penis cut off, sticking in his mouth. They did it all hanging from a tree and going back to the time they cut babies out of girls' stomachs and whatever. But slavery, they put fear in you. It made you hate your hair. You got the strongest, most beautiful hair in the world. But even today, a lot of our women still cover it up because they've been made ashamed and they call this bad hair. If it ain't straight, ain't got a wig on, they call it bad hair. You got the best hair in the world. You got total beauty. Everything on you is so beautiful. So here, we picked up guns, and that's when we started the Black Panther Party. We first had an organization of the Democrats and Republicans throwing bombs at us. So we couldn't vote. And so we formed our own party, the Lowndes County Freedom Organization, and with a Black Panther symbol. And they started calling us the Black Panther Party. In Mississippi, we started Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And but they bombed us, burned down churches, burned down the schools, assassinated people, and all that. Now, mind you, now, at that time, all the students here had to go in back doors. And you had and Alabama State was very poor. All the buildings you had on campus for women, I remember then, was Albert Plummer and Bill Gray. I think Albert Plummer was, Bill Gray was the president of Albert Plummer was the senior upper class though. And you had to be back in the dorm at 9 o'clock. And we pulled a demonstration to protest and had all the girls come out the dormitory and sleep on the ground. And that's how they broke the rules and made it where you can stay out late now. Some of y'all stay out late now. Yeah, well, we had somebody had to fight to do this. So when we did that, Black Panther Party got started. And then when the Black Panther Party got started, other groups started Black Panther chapters. Why did they start Black Panther chapters? Because they were beating people and killing people just like they did Trayvon Martin. So what the group of young men did all over the country, they got guns. And whenever the police stopped somebody, they would go stand there with their guns and say there ain't gonna be no violence. Say, deal with the person. And then if the police try to get violence, then they would get violence with the police. And that's why they were Black Panthers. But when they were Black Panthers, they were looking so good, they started telling children about freedom and all that. And they brought in some little children singing freedom songs and telling them about being free. But they noticed that these children are hungry. So they got some grits one day and cooked them some grits. And they acted like they were just starving. So they started feeding them every time they get them together. And that's how they started the breakfast program. But when they started the breakfast program, they saw that some of them teeth was right down. Some of them had sickness and there was no medicine, no doctors. So they got doctors to come from different parts of the country and come and work on the kids free. And that's how they got involved in that kind of thing. Back then you didn't have welfare, Medicaid, or none of that kind of stuff. Black Panthers and SNCC had those kind of programs long before. They didn't even have what you call it where you can they take you to daycare for your children. Head Start and nursery programs and food stamps, none of that. So we started trying to organize that and bring food in the neighborhood and all of that. But we embarrassed the country so bad that they created a national program with food stamps and helping children and all that. So we did all that. Black Panthers in Lowndes County. We said we need some power. After they passed the Civil Rights Bill, Voters' Rights Bill, James Merritt. Y'all remember James Merritt? I know you don't. You know, he was a very well-known person in the state. He was the first brother to go to a white school in the South. It was the University of Mississippi, named James Merritt. And people got killed. They did everything. And then college. And then after that big incident and riots and everything, integrated school, they passed the Voters' Rights Bill and the Civil Rights Bill, saying we can go in the front doors now, or we have a right to vote. But he said, look, burnt down schools, assassinated people, hung people, terrorized people, and now you tell people to go out and do what you killed them for, try to register to vote. He said, people got fear. So he marched through Mississippi with a sign that says, have no fear. Don't have no fear. Don't fear voting. Register to vote. And when he stepped out, a white man stepped out the bushes and shot him in the back with a shotgun. And Dr. King, his brother named Stokely Carmichael, I know y'all. Anybody heard of Stokely Carmichael? That's what I'm saying. Kwame Ture. That's what I'm saying. I know that y'all heard of Malcolm X, right? Probably never read nothing about him. Ain't never heard none of his speeches, but you heard he was good, right? Strong, right? Y'all gotta read some books about Malcolm X. So go on the internet and listen to some of his speeches and all that where you know these things. But we said he was gonna walk 250 miles. Dr. King and us, we met and said we're gonna take this march because black people be even scared now if we don't march through Mississippi, what James Merritt was gonna do. And we walked through Mississippi and they bombed us, they shot us, shot at us, they did a lot of things. But we went through there and we told people don't be afraid, have no fear, and we started saying we need black power. And that's when the Black Power movement was started. And we started saying we had black power. They couldn't kill us, they couldn't murder us. And we had black power, we could give our children schools and universities, and we could do more for our people who have to beg the United States government, beg white people to help us, that don't want to help us, who wouldn't have to beg nobody. We could do for ourselves. We need black power. And them fists went up. Everybody hold your fist up. Hold your fist up. That's it, black power. Yes. That's good. Black power.
Black power.
Yeah, we went through Mississippi, black power, black power. And we said we need black power, we need unity, we need black power. And we went through Mississippi saying that. It shook up the world. Everybody got scared then. But now black people said, we need power, we need power. And then, shortly after then, students at Fish University said, we ain't scared of black power. Black power is good. Everybody said, black power is bad. What do you mean by black power? And they said, we ain't scared of black power. Black power started saying, black is beautiful, our hair is beautiful, we should wear afros and don't wear the wigs and cover your hair up. Stop, start frying. Stop frying your hair. Get that stupid to do out your hair. And girls be naturally beautiful. At one time, a dark girl had to sit in the back of the class and the light girl sit in the front of the class. All those kinds of things exist. And that, so we had to fight against that. And we had to teach people that black ain't bad. Like I can call you a dog or mother so-and-so. You laugh at it. If I call you a black dog or a black mother, you say it's kind of funny. And so we had to make black a good color. And then we taught people about Africa and culture and all that. And to today, we talk about what we call Pan-Africanism. The question we wanted to ask today, how do we pull black people back together? How do we unite? And how do we pull all the people of goodwill and unity and people's mind that want freedom and justice and equality for everybody? How do we pull these people together?
All right, y'all give it up for Mukasu.
Time is run out. Oh man, I was just getting wound up. I'm so sorry.
Well,
you should have stopped the man and say.
Well, they got other classes they have to go to. Are you back Monday? What's your plan?
I'm out.
Okay.
I'll come back. Next time I want you to ask questions, because I just have to get lined up and talk about so many things to come to what I really want to talk about. Because I can see that if you just start somewhere, sometimes you be missing people, they don't understand that. If I talk about Malcolm X and you don't know Malcolm X, then it'd be like talking about porn. But I just want to tell y'all, African queens, we Africans, and we all have to stick together, fight together, and we have to make it where everybody has justice and respect, right?